Hello there, and in this video, we're going to be taking a deep dive into a rabbit hole regarding the book Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. More specifically, this rabbit hole is looking at this idea of whether Think and Grow Rich, this famous book written in 1937, it was written before 1937, but published originally in 1937, one of the greatest personal development books ever written. We're going to be looking at this idea of whether Napoleon Hill and this book shared the secrets to Freemason success. So the success of Freemasons, the Masonic Temple, and all of those things. Now, I do want to share this as a preface that this is solely based on conclusions that I'm drawing from this book. So this is not any official or unofficial word from any people within their organization. I am literally just taking conclusions from this book, which I find very interesting, and you might too if you stick around. So first of all, I just want to give a quick preface on this book. Think and Grow Rich, one of the most successful books ever written in personal growth, personal development, published in 1937. And here's a fun fact that is very pertinent to what I'm about to share, is there's a book that came before this, and it was originally called The Law of Success, and I think it was 16 lessons. And then the book got condensed down into 15 lessons. There's like a 15 lesson version. And then it got condensed way down into 13 chapters that are in Think and Grow Rich. So Think and Grow Rich is basically just the beginning. It is just like a summary of all the main ideas in the book, The Law of Success. So this is just volume 2. I think there's maybe 4 or 5 volumes of all of these, The Law of Success, at least for this version by the Napoleon Hill Foundation. This one is also a Audible copy with the design from the very original copy, which was, it has like yellow and then red with, red stripes and everything, just to give you an idea of like what the original versions look like and all that. But at some point in time when Napoleon Hill was publishing this book, he was talking to publishers, and they were saying that's way too much information and all that. So just condense it into Think and Grow Rich. Now, here's what's very interesting. Napoleon Hill did interview many of the most successful people of his day, of the 1930s, 20s, people that were building businesses in the early 1900s. John D. Rockefeller, Thomas Edison, Alexander Graham Bell, Theodore Roosevelt, Luther Burbank, all of these incredible people, Henry Ford, all of these very successful business people, politicians, influencers of their day. Napoleon Hill was able to get ideas from all of them to put into this book. So just imagine for a second that you had the opportunity to get around some of the most successful people today, whoever that you might consider those people. Maybe it's Elon Musk, maybe it's Bob Iger, the former CEO turned CEO again of Disney. Maybe it's the creators of Google. Maybe whoever it is, politicians, scientists, whoever you admire, maybe the athletes, world famous athletes, whoever it is that these people that you admire, imagine being able to get them all into a room or have time with them to interview them and chat with them, and then be able to write a book about their greatest thoughts. I mean, this is basically what Napoleon Hill did, and it's probably one of the most influential documents of his time for those specific people. Everything else is basically biographies written by other people that didn't really get to dive in deep about how they became successful, but they only, other people were only able to get biographies, very surface level events, situations, and things that happen. But let's start talking about this idea of whether Napoleon Hill was sharing or shared some of the ideas related to success of Freemasons. Now, I'm not going into like the whole are Freemasons, spiritual, or are they doing mystical stuff? And I'm not drawing any conjecture or like over speculation about what they really do or whatever. I'm merely drawing from my conclusions from what I've read from Napoleon Hill. So just want to say that in case anybody is out there who is maybe a Freemason or whatever, or totally far deep into conspiracy theory about all that stuff. I'm totally just drawing objective conclusions from this book. So with that said, here's what you don't find in Think and Grow Rich. A lot, because as I mentioned, there's four volumes, maybe more, of this book. 16 laws of success. And with that said, within this book, there's one chapter, just one paragraph in all like 800, 900, maybe 1,000 pages. I don't know how many pages these are exactly, but each book has like 200 pages or so. There's a few volumes, so almost 1,000 pages, that are many of which are ideas that are not contained in Think and Grow Rich. And within all of that, there's one paragraph where Napoleon Hill, get this, Napoleon Hill shares that he was a Freemason. So he was walking down the street, he was a Freemason, and he met a person who was I believe there's another secret society, I forget its name, the Knights of something. But anyway, this is not about them. But Napoleon Hill shares a story of how he met one of them, and initially he saw their ring, and there was like some conflict because the different temples or secret societies aren't really friends with each other, whatever. And he's like, why can't we be friends? What is this age-old tradition of not being friends with these other people just because they're part of a different organization? And from there, he basically shared that it's okay to be friends with them. So with that said, the law of success contains that one bit of information. Now, here's the other big thing. So obviously Napoleon Hill was a Freemason. He knew some things about life, personal growth, that I don't know exactly how far he went, but he knows some things about life and personal growth that are very, very far from access to many of us, many of the regular world, people who are not part of that society. So, I mean, did Napoleon Hill really give away some of the secrets of success? I mean, here's one final thing. One thing that we can also know is that many of the most successful people that have ever lived throughout history have potentially been a part of one or more societies. And this might be something from like a club, an exclusive club, to an exclusive country membership, to modern meetings of minds where some of the most successful people are getting together to like talk about the world's biggest events. These things happen. I mean, even at a non-multi-millionaire, billionaire, world leader level, many of us meet on a regular basis. There's people meeting inside their dorm rooms, building their next business, right? So things like that. But except, the Freemasons, Masonic temples, they are a world global organization and all that, those things. But with that said, we know some of the most successful people who have ever lived, especially during those times in the 1900s. People would get together and have meetings and all of that, which they still do today. But back then, it was much different. They'd get in suits and they'd meet together, and, they would be all secretive or whatever. But with the people that Napoleon Hill interviewed, we can only conclude that the chances are at least a quarter of them, out of something like 50 to 100 people, at least a quarter of them were potentially Freemasons. And therein lies the potential secrets of the Freemasons here, just based on conclusions taken from Think and Grow Rich. So, if you do want to know what their secrets to potentially improving your personal power, now I'm not defining power as like world domination or anything like that. I'm talking about personal power as in personal power, your ability to influence, your ability to have control over your life, your ability to do and have and be the things that you want to do and have and be, and all those things. That's what I mean by power. But on top of that, access to resources, money, people, ideas, all of those things. And it's possible, it is very possible that a lot of the ideas, the formulas, the principles, the methods of success came from for Think and Grow Rich came from Freemasons, came from people who were part of various Masonic lodges, who learned some of their secrets to life, and ultimately, maybe not necessarily giving away the specific secrets, but sharing the ideas around those events and situations and the things that made them successful. So, with that said, one of the most successful personal development books in the world, Napoleon Hill, who was a Freemason himself, who interviewed many successful people of the day who were also probably Freemasons if we're really looking into history. But they were much more secretive back then. You could go read Freemasons for Dummies right now and get a ton of information. But with that said, some potentially very, very powerful ideas in these books. I mean, if we think about the influence of societies like the Freemasons or whatever throughout the world, throughout generations, like hundreds, I don't know, maybe thousands of years, a couple thousand of years or whatever, probably a couple thousand. Yeah, right at about a couple thousand by now. Yeah, I mean, this is such a powerful, powerful topic. And who knows? Who knows? Maybe Freemasons don't talk about success. Maybe they don't talk about these types of things that are in this book. Maybe they just talk about all sorts of philosophical other topics, whatever. But with these ideas that have been taken from Think and Grow Rich, I mean, I was absolutely blown away when I found out that Napoleon Hill was a Freemason. It was just something that blew my mind because it potentially said so much, and literally just one little chapter within a 1,000-page book that was separate from the main book that made him highly successful, which, once people read this, they probably think they don't need to read The Law of Success, or maybe they haven't heard of The Law of Success. But a lot of really interesting information. How do people become successful? How do they grow rich? What is the power of a thought? How do you think your way to success, wealth, power, influence, to achieve the things that you want, to have the things that you want, to do the things that you want? How do you do all of that? Who has some of the right ideas? Who has some of the techniques, the methods? Napoleon Hill did, for sure. And he knew many people who shared their ideas with him for him to come to those conclusions. So with that said, thank you for watching this video. I hope it was interesting for you, and have a wonderful day.